Hello, boys and girls. This is the magnificent MagMongoSlade. Today, we're going to be talking about Monday Night Raw from July the 21st, 2025. In addition to this, we're also going to go through the WrestleNomics piece that they posted, where Netflix has released data on Raw's viewership. So we're going to talk about that after the review, because it is quite interesting how the viewership has plummeted over the last 6 months. But we're going to get into that momentarily. We're also going to talk about Pat McAfee being gone for the foreseeable future. I may even dance a jig a little bit because he's going to be gone. But we start the show with AJ Styles. AJ Styles had various jobs throughout the night. He was a janitor, he was medical staff, he was all sorts of things as he haunted Dominic Mysterio to see if Dominic Mysterio was going to be medically cleared. It turns out Dominic is medically cleared, and they will be having a match at SummerSlam for the Intercontinental Championship. I really liked these segments with AJ being a janitor and medical staff and all that sort of stuff as he haunts Dominic Mysterio. That was probably the most fun stuff on the show for me. So, hey, I like that kind of stuff. It was kind of weird because you barely see AJ do this kind of comedy, but it worked. At least as far as I'm concerned, it worked. And they didn't have a lot of time to really put a lot of heat on this thing, so it worked for me. Now, CM Punk came out to cut his promo, and he had a promo with Gunther, and there was some banter there. Punk said he came back for two things: the main event WrestleMania and to become World Heavyweight Champion. He did one of those things, and now he's working on the other. Then he said Gunther's one of the best in the world. He's looking forward to the challenge. Said he can't promise a win, but he promises to leave it all in the ring. Very interesting verbiage here from CM Punk. He didn't sound very confident, actually. Gunther says that they both are in WWE for the same reason: championships and money. They both have egos, but Gunther's ego is based off results. He says not what the people think. And he's going to make CM Punk regret getting in the ring with him. They're not going for heat here, apparently. This match is like next week or the week after next or something like that. And this is what they threw together. A promo segment where Gunther talked about how he's going to choke CM Punk and throw him out like a wet rag, which is pretty much what he said to everybody for the last 4 months, I think. I'm going to choke you out like a wet rag. Okay. This Dick Hutton looking motherfucker here. Look, man. This might just be a house show match to some of these guys, but this should feel like a bigger match than it really is. This doesn't feel big, right? Maybe by the time we get there, it'll have some weight to it. Maybe the crowd will get into it, and it'll have some weight to it. But right now, this just feels like they're going to wrestle on Raw. It doesn't feel like, SummerSlam is the third biggest show of the year, behind WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble. And it doesn't feel like these two guys don't like each other. And part of this comes because CM Punk won a gauntlet to get this match, and not because these two guys have any sort of legitimate heat, which, would have been nice. And I really hope Punk wins this title because I'm kind of sick of Gunther. He needs to go on vacation. Stephanie Vaquer, she got confronted by Naomi. Naomi absolutely butchered this girl's name. Stephanie Vaquer! Or whatever she said to her. I mean, it sounded like she mispronouncing her name on purpose. It was so bad. Naomi claimed that Stephanie Vaquer was getting dog walked by Iyo Sky. She claimed that once she beats Iyo at SummerSlam, they're going to be having a match in Paris. But she would not have let Iyo dog walk her like that. So Stephanie Vaquer went to go see Iyo about this whole thing. To which Iyo says, yeah, it's going to be you and me in Paris. She said this in very choppy English. And then she said the last time they wrestled, she was going to beat Stephanie Vaquer. So Stephanie Vaquer was like, okay, we'll see. And then Iyo Sky was like, why wait? Let's do it tonight. And that was our in-ring main event. Stephanie Vaquer versus Iyo Sky in a match for no reason, babyface versus babyface, in the main event of Monday Night Raw. You're going to see that this becomes a big problem. If you put these heatless matches on at the main event spot and they expect people to watch this stuff. Look, if you just want to see good women's wrestling, then this match was right up your alley. If you were expecting storyline, you're going to get a storyline for sure. But if you were expecting things to actually matter, forget about it. If you were like me and you were smart and you saw that this disqualification was coming, then you didn't really invest too much time. And Triple H is really wasting Iyo Sky's bumps. She goes out there, takes these really incredible bumps, especially when she does the top rope drop kick, because she hangs in the air for a while and takes, which essentially is a power bomb from the top rope every time she does that top rope missile drop kick she does. And then they throw the matches out, or they have fucking run-ins. What they try to do is to whet your appetite for this kind of match, and then just give you a little tease without giving you a finish. That just done nothing but piss people off, however. And of course, people, when they see disqualification bait, they actually don't invest time or energy into it. And this comes across from the fans, too. The people in the building are just kind of waiting for the disqualification. They're waiting for the hook. They can't believe they're just going to give us this match for no reason. This is supposed to be like the match that was going to be in Paris. So, you know, the crowd don't really trust the company at this point. Anyway, Stephanie Vaquer hits a reverse suplex from the top rope before Piper Niven and Alba Fire just walk down the ramp because they can. They distracted the referee and Stephanie Vaquer, and then Chelsea Green attacked her from behind. Iyo Sky helped to fight off Chelsea Green. Then Naomi jumped Iyo, and then Rhea Ripley came out there to a massive reaction. Rhea laid everybody out, and that was the end of this segment. They were trying to put some heat on the match at SummerSlam, but instead of having the women who are going to be in the match interact with each other in a meaningful way and build some heat verbally or something, or at least do a vignette, something, they decided to do this, which is waste a Stephanie Vaquer versus Iyo Sky match and dump Chelsea Green in the middle of this thing. Look, I'm okay with Chelsea Green. I don't hate Chelsea Green. Actually, I quite like Chelsea Green. The unfortunate bit is that she's not in the conversation in terms of important people on the roster. And because she's not in the conversation, why is she interfering in the main event of Raw? You know, like, this is very much Attitude Era stuff where you would have, like, people of no consequence, like, you know, Hardcore Holly or fucking X-Pac, all of a sudden jump in the ring during the main event of Raw. You're like, what the hell is this guy who has no purpose in life interfering in a Stone Cold Steve Austin match? Like, what the fuck? Like, come on, man. Just, you're trying too hard to spare us some things, and these are not raucous Raw main events with, like, lots of action and stuff. Like, these are pretty high-level pro wrestling matches. It worked, you know, this was a well-worked match. There was nothing wrong with the match. It was just I didn't invest in it because I knew it was going to be a disqualification. Now, I wasn't sure who was going to interfere, but I knew somebody was going to interfere. So, do you think anybody other than Rhea Ripley is going to win this match all of a sudden? Because I'm not. It's not looking like anybody else is going to win. Now, Naomi obviously has to win because she just won the fucking title. But she's not looking very strong as champion. She had a pretty cool moment before the show when she was riding around on her scooter luggage thing. That was pretty funny. Other than that, she's just kind of been cackling like the Wicked Witch of WWE, which is, I'm usually okay with that kind of cartoony shit, so I can't complain. The first official match on the show was Rusev versus Sheamus Part 2 as 1980s a pro wrestling match can possibly be. Very physical. They worked very hard, but it was all meaningless because it's just a match for match's sake. This is very unfortunate because both of these guys did the best that they could here. Well, they probably didn't do the best they could, but they did quite a bit. Sheamus wanted to jump off the top rope onto Rusev. Rusev, of course, stood outside the ring like Mortal Kombat character. Finish him. He was just, dazed and confused. Sheamus lost his composure and landed back in the ring. And instead of just abandoning ship, he forced Rusev to continue standing there while he climbed the rope again. Sometimes it's best just abandon ship. I did like one particular part of this match I thought was very good. Rusev gets the accolade onto Sheamus, and Sheamus is reaching for the ropes. But Rusev is trying to prevent him from grabbing the rope. So he's like digging in Sheamus' eyes and, trying to pull his arm back. This is what wrestling is supposed to be. It's a struggle. He's sort of abandoning the submission element to prevent the rope break. But there's something legitimate there in terms of grit. And, Sheamus is fighting through something. Not only is he in a very uncomfortable position with this guy sitting on his back, but he's trying to save himself and Rusev is trying to prevent it. This is what wrestling is supposed to look like. All right? Two big dudes, physical, and they're actively looking like one guy is fighting from underneath, trying to fight from behind, that sort of thing. I did like that. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Rusev ends up getting his head run into an exposed turnbuckle, hoisted upon his own petard because he's the one who removed the turnbuckle pad. Then he went and grabbed the shillelagh, which is Sheamus' walking stick. And as he's about to attack Sheamus with it, he gets brogue kicked and pinned. And so Sheamus won match 2 of their, I'm guessing, at least 3-match series. I said all of this is meaningless because not only do people continue to forget that Rusev works there, and I'm not the only one, so I'm very happy about this. I thought I was the only one that forgot Rusev worked in WWE. Every time I see him, it's like the first time I saw him. I'm like, damn, he's still here? Damn, when did he come back? He's not involved in any storylines. This is a feud that's been going on, but what are they feuding over? I don't know. What's the upward, why was neither one of these guys in that gauntlet last week? Why is neither one of these guys want to be the Intercontinental Champion? There's no good reason why these guys are in these just pointless matches. This is a real problem. These matches lack heat. They lack story. These guys are not even really over. Now, the people are trying to chant Rusev Day, and the people do like Sheamus, but you haven't really grounded these characters. You haven't really put these characters over. So it was all, they worked very hard, had a pretty good match, but it was for nothing. It's just like the Stephanie Vaquer versus Iyo Sky match. There was nothing wrong with what happened in the ring. The problem is you presented a dry steak to people who kind of came for an experience. They came for the atmosphere. And you just dropped an overcooked steak on their plate and said, here, this is what we serve. We serve steak. So here, boom, overcooked steak. Take that. Like, damn, I don't get no accoutrements. I don't even get some Kool-Aid to go with this. It's just here, I'm just dumping this big ass porterhouse on your plate. All right. I mean, I like steak, but shit, I would have liked some fries, like something to sizzle this thing up, ice cream or something. No. Just here's big ass steak. Just dump it right on your goddamn plate. One of those big cartoon steaks like you see in Looney Tunes or something. This is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why I'm talking about steaks. Maybe I'm hungry, but I'm kind of fasting right now. Ludwig Kaiser as El Grande Americano got into a fight with Dragon Lee, as Dragon Lee called him a fake and got in his face. El Grande Americano, really bad Spanish, and it's clearly Ludwig Kaiser, because you could tell his voice, so you could really know. It's obviously him. The weird thing about this is El Grande Americano was actually working main event last week. So they've decided to not just put a new guy under the mask, but also to sort of degrade the character while they do that. I know there were plans for Chad Gable before he got injured, but holy shit. You could at least try to keep these plans up. Now, Dragon Lee has lost to this guy twice already, if I remember correctly. So why a third time? Why does that need to happen? But I guess until it happens, there's no need to complain. I really wish Dragon Lee was taken seriously in WWE. He could be a top guy, man. It's very unfortunate. The second match on the show, triple threat match, number one contenders for the tag team championship, New Day, Creed Brothers, LWO, Dragon Lee and El Grande Americano get into it in this match as well, because Dragon Lee came out to help the LWO, which consisted of him attacking the Creed Brothers right in front of the referee, but because it's a triple threat match, there's no disqualification. Don't understand it, didn't get it, stupid. Anyway, El Grande Americano and Dragon Lee fought even during this match. But the LWO end up rolling up the New Day to win the match. So the LWO, Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde, are the tag team number one contenders. This is absolutely absurd. Who in the world believes in the LWO? I appreciate you trying to do something different. I appreciate that the LWO have worked very hard. They're pretty good veterans. They're going to have good matches with Finn Balor and JD McDonough. That's not going to change. That's not going to be questioned. The problem is going to be, who's going to give a fuck? Not me. Anyway, New Day is very disappointed. They go backstage. They said they need to restore order in the tag team division because they're still very depressed. Turns out Grayson Waller wants to be their ace. I don't know what this means. And he just announces that A-Town Down Under is over because Austin Theory went and got himself hurt. And he was very excited that A-Town Down Under is over. And I just was like, they were building this up for like 18 months. And they never did anything. They just decided it's over. It's like that. Just like that. Bro, there's no way y'all will let the old man get away with some shit like this. Y'all would not let Tony Khan get away with no shit like this. Y'all wouldn't let Scott D'Amore get away with no shit like this. There's no way that guy invested almost 2 years worth of storylines in a A-Town Down Under breakup and then threw it away in a backstage segment on Monday Night Raw only for Grayson Waller to then join up with the New Day to do some nebulous, vague job for them. This is stupid, okay? Everything involving Austin Theory has been fucking stupid since Triple H took over. It's all been dumb. This kid must be fucking Stephanie or something. There's just no reason why he specifically is getting fucked with a railroad spike. Why is this happening to this guy? Okay? Even if he is legitimately hurt, you still just drop his storyline because you don't want to deal with it. There was a thing, is really unfortunate, where somebody said there has not been, to date, a WWE champion that was born in the 1990s. I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. But I could tell you Austin Theory would have been WWE champion by now, or at least he'd be in title contention by now, if it wasn't for this fucking idiot Triple H. Alright? This guy's a sawed-off moron. Even if you don't like Austin Theory, The idea that you would just drop an angle that you were working on for 2 fucking years. For starters, that's too damn long to be holding on to a tag team breakup. Because they've been holding on to Judgment Day breaking up as long, and they keep going back on it. They're not sure what they want to do when it comes to Judgment Day. But when it comes to Austin Theory, they don't care. So he just gets kicked around, and his storylines come out looking like shit. And then the thing is, they didn't even book it. Like, Vince would have at least booked it if Austin Theory had fucked up and got on the wrong side of him. He would have at least booked it to make Grayson Waller look good. It doesn't even make Grayson Waller look good. It makes him look like shit. Nobody benefited from this situation. 2 fucking years of storylines thrown in the garbage on a backstage segment that got over nobody. Look, I'm done with y'all, boy. All right? I'm done with him. He gets no more benefit of the doubt. And we're definitely going to talk about that later, but we're going to get to it. We're going to get into it for sure. But Triple H is fucking up. This is the shits. So, because he remembers certain things, Bayley was supposed to get a tag team championship match at WrestleMania. WrestleMania, by the way, was 3 months ago. Okay, so she forgot. She didn't get her tag team championship match. She's earned that. So she's going to get her tag team championship match tonight. And she's going to get Lyra Valkyria as a tag team partner. Now, me, much like Lyra Valkyria, is very surprised at this because they just had a match last week. And Lyra Valkyria is like, I'm about to wrestle for the Intercontinental Championship. Why do you want me to wrestle for a tag team title? What is up with that? We didn't get a real answer to why Bayley decided to pick Lyra Valkyria of all people to be her tag team partner. I mean, it was a prime opportunity to try to elevate somebody else in the tag team division or in the women's division, but nope! Got to be Lyra Valkyria. So, Lyra Valkyria and Bayley versus Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. They actually put in a lot of effort and a lot of work into this match, and I was actually quite impressed. But before the match actually took place, Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria had words. I'm going to truncate this because it wasn't much to be said. Becky Lynch wants Lyra Valkyria to show her proper respect and to respect this match and the gravitas of the championship. And she says that if she beats Lyra Valkyria cannot challenge for an Intercontinental Championship again. Lyra Valkyria agrees, but only if the match is no disqualification. To which Becky Lynch agrees. Then Becky Lynch tries to force a handshake and a sneak attack, only to get taken down herself. But as she's dealing with Becky Lynch, Bayley's very awful theme music. She has not been over since she got this theme music. It's the shits. It's very bad. And she comes to the ring and they have the match. So they're working the match. The match actually has some pretty decent length to it. I was very surprised at this. And me, much like a bunch of other people, I think, kind of believed that Bayley would turn here. And it seemed like that would be a sensible decision to turn Bayley here. Instead, what we got was Raquel kicking Dominic in the face mistakenly. This is because we didn't know Dominic was medically cleared yet. While Dom was down, the medical staff ran over to help him. He was being a distraction, so he was basically generally in the way. The medical staff ended up being AJ Styles, so he jumped up and ran off. This was all a big distraction. Becky Lynch then assaulted Lyra Valkyria while Bayley was the legal man in the ring. She rammed Lyra Valkyria into the metal stairs. Bayley tried to fight off Roxanne Perez on her own. She didn't see a tag where Roxanne tagged out. And basically, Raquel Rodriguez just came into the ring from outside, picked her up to Hana Bomb 1, 2, 3, and Bayley lost. So, there is that. So, there was no heel turn. It was just another win for Roxanne and Raquel. And this tells me, very obviously, that Alexa Bliss and Charlotte are about to win these tag team titles. Why else are they winning so many matches in so short a time? There were times where these titles would not be defended. And now they're winning pretty much every week now, or every other week. It's because they want to make them look good for Charlotte and Alexa Bliss. And here's my question. Why not build that feud? Why have this pointless fucking match? And it's a long match too. Why have this pointless fucking match when we have already set up Alexa Bliss and Charlotte versus Raquel and Roxanne? Instead, we could have built that match. We could have put some heat on that match. You could have had Alexa Bliss, wrestle Raquel Rodriguez or something, or they could have did an in-ring promo segment against each other or something like that instead of this fucking match. Lyra Valkyria is already in a match. Why is she in this tag team thing? Why does Bayley want Lyra Valkyria as a tag team partner? None of this shit makes any fucking sense. Oh, jeez, man. Whatever. They sold out Monday Night Raw, so I can't. I'm arguing with success. That's because they take Roman off TV for fucking 4 months, and then he comes back and he sells all the goddamn tickets. So, who doesn't sell tickets? Sami Zayn. He's there. He wants to fight Karrion Kross tonight because Karrion Kross is in the way of his goals. If it had not been for an attack by Karrion Kross, then Sami Zayn would have been in that gauntlet last week, and he might be fighting for the title at SummerSlam. He's very confident for a mid-carder. Just incredibly confident for this mid-card thing. Karrion Kross defeats Sami Zayn. I actually liked the finish because it was sensible. However, the match itself was quite, let's say, controversial. The usual suspects absolutely hate Karrion Kross. They think he can't work. I don't know what he did to these guys where now all of a sudden they live to shit on him. But they do. There's so much negativity around Karrion Kross and his matches. A lot of this stuff started, of course, in NXT, but it's really intensified over the last couple of weeks. And even if he has a mediocre match, it's sort of, he's a bad wrestler. He sucks at wrestling. It's like, wait a second. He's not, a bad wrestler. His style probably should change if he can change it. But the idea that he's a bad wrestler, I've seen way too much Karrion Kross, and the guy is actually quite good. And I do realize that he changed his style a bit to fit this new character. He slowed things down. He's trying to be a little bit more of a main event guy. So he's trying to work like Roman Reigns without being as over as Roman Reigns. Because, Roman works very slow too, and so does Randy. But those guys are over. Like Karrion Kross is not that over to work as slow as he does. And he works like, a big guy. So high impact moves and such. No flips. This guy practiced jiu-jitsu and, legitimate combat, not stuff that is the gymnastics. That's not his thing. But people think gymnastics is pro wrestling all of a sudden because they listen to Dave Meltzer. But we're going to talk about Dave Meltzer too in a few minutes. In any event, the finish, Karrion Kross hit Sami Zayn in the stomach with a pipe that he got from Scarlett after Scarlett distracted Sami Zayn by yanking his leg. And so Karrion Kross won the match. He didn't win clean, but he won the match. And after the match, he still is demanding that Sami Zayn admit that he is right. But this has been going on for so long, I don't remember what Sami Zayn is supposed to admit. I don't get it. I don't understand the character. I don't understand what's going on here. That's such a huge issue with the way the show was being booked now. Yes, I recognize that Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross has history. I recognize that they've had previous matches. I recognize that they've had angles together, but I'm not sure what Kross is looking to get out of this situation. I mean, it doesn't feel like a personal feud where Kross wants to destroy Sami Zayn on some Lex Luthor shit or something like that. It's like, say it! Say it! I'm like, what is he going to say? And what does that supposed to do for you? How does this get you out of the muck and the mire that you're stuck in? This is another Rusev and Sheamus, another Stephanie Vaquer versus Iyo Sky. It was just a match in the ring that people are supposed to care about, and people can't find, even within the cushions of their couch, a fuck to give. It's really unfortunate, but it just seems like a lot of this stuff is filler. Like, most of this stuff on Raw just feels like it's so unimportant. Again, the main event guys, they show up for a short amount of time. Speaking of which, shit, I haven't even talked about the Roman Reigns segment yet. Man, I forgot already. Like, this guy's been off TV for months, and I already forgot. Okay, Roman was out there for a long time, so I'm just going to give you Roman's side of the story and call it a day. Roman Reigns called Paul Heyman a dumbass and said that Braun Breaker needs to listen to him because what Paul did to Roman, he's going to do it to Braun too. And that is, the moment you become a big star, Paul is going to try to take all the credit. And then he says that Paul helped him get the title, but had no hand in him keeping it. Said that the Usos helped, Solo helped, even Sami Zayn helped, but not Paul. Then he says that, yes, he lost the title. It took him 4 years to lose it, but he ended up losing that title. And he did not run away with his tail in between his legs. He went to raise the future of the bloodline. Said that Paul Heyman is not a wise man. He is a dumbass. Because he thought that this was just a wrestling faction. He said it was family. You can't build this. This is God's work. He said Paul threw away the family that he invited Paul into for a best friend he hasn't spoken to for a decade. Everybody who blames him for the breakup of the bloodline, no, it was Paul. It's Paul's fault that the bloodline has broken up. Braun Breaker then tells Roman Reigns he's the top dog now. He's the big dog. And they end up fighting. And of course, Jey Uso comes out there to help Roman, leading to what is no doubt going to be a tag team match at SummerSlam, but it has yet to be announced, at least as far as I know. The Roman segment, very disappointing. And here's why. Because it made Roman sound like a jealous girlfriend. He was upset about Paul helping CM Punk. But he should say, you turned your back on me, and now the guy that you're siding with is not even here. You threw away everything on a racehorse with one leg. How do you feel now, Paul? You're an oracle, Paul. Did you not see that coming? That the guy with trick knees, his knees would go out? That felt more like what he should have said. Being upset about CM Punk, that should be in the past. He actively helped Seth Rollins. So we should be focused on that part. Even if Seth Rollins can't be there to talk about it, which no doubt it seemed like that might have been the direction they wanted to go in. But even so, that's what happened. That's what we all saw at WrestleMania. Is that Paul Heyman sided with Rollins. So, and now Rollins is injured. And Roman should mention that. But Seth Rollins never came up in this entire conversation. He put the blame on Paul Heyman, and he put the blame on CM Punk. This is Roman evading responsibility, as usual. The reason why the bloodline broke up is because Roman's ego was out of control, and he tried to control the Usos, and he was bullying them. That was part of the problem, but Paul didn't get to call him out on that because everybody's popping for Roman, and they don't want to remind everybody how much of a jagoff he is. Braun Breaker is now the centerpiece of this storyline, which I enjoy, because I like Braun Breaker. It was just unfortunate it took for Seth Rollins to blow his knee out for like the 45th time for this to occur. But I'm not really a huge fan of the tag team match. I accept it because I know it's too soon to have Braun Breaker versus Roman Reigns in a singles match. It's not too soon, however, to have Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns in a singles match. But we've also seen Jey Uso wrestle Braun Breaker quite a bit. So a tag team match where Roman and Jey work together, that might be the kind of sizzle for the audience, because they really still love Jey, and wanting to see him and Roman work together again could be special. The crowd are such marks, they let Roman off the hook. They don't care what he say, they agree with him. So he took no responsibility for what happened to the bloodline. And the crowd was like, yeah, it's that fat fool Paul. It's his fault. I'm like, no, it's not Paul's fault at all. We'll see if Jey Uso ever tries to get any kind of apology from Roman Reigns. He will not do it. I think his ego's so big that he won't do it. Even in character, he won't do it. He refuses to apologize to the Usos for what he did to them. Crazy thing is, the more he avoids the confrontation, the bigger the confrontation becomes, to be quite honest. But obviously people are going to be invested in Roman's segment, but I think it was a miss for the reasons I already mentioned. I think that the hard pivot with Seth Rollins being injured, or at least taken out of this part of the story, is leading to some very... I think this was going to be the plan anyways. It's going to end up being a tag team match, but it might have been Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker rather than Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. Also, Bronson Reed doesn't get anything out of this. Braun Breaker has just decided he was the future of WWE, and Bronson Reed just kind of standing there like, whatever you say. No ambition, no fire, no desire. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, so that's about it. Monday Night Raw. In the ring, it wasn't too bad. Iyo Sky and Stephanie Vaquer, Rusev and Sheamus. All of that stuff was pretty good in the ring. The outside the ring part, the storylines are very flimsy. Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch is probably the best running story at this point. They're having the best feud on Raw because it's been going on since April, but they keep ratcheting up the stakes. The only problem here is that they can't get Bayley out of the goddamn story. For some odd reason, they ham-fisted her right back in when she didn't need to be. But the Punk Gunther story, there is no story. You know, Punk is just a random number one contender. Same thing for the tag team championships, just random number one contender. So the top title really just feels like the Women's Intercontinental Championship is like the most well-built belt in the entire company. The Women's World title was not bad off. Naomi is the champion, but she's instigating fights between her competitors, but she's not commanding the ring. She doesn't really feel like she's in control of this division. She seems like somebody who's in it and at the top of it, but not really like she's the top girl. Gunther at least feels like the top guy, but Naomi doesn't feel like the top girl. Obviously, that's Rhea Ripley. And you could at least try to establish Naomi as that without just, sidelining her. And obviously what they've done with Dominic Mysterio has been a capital offense. This guy was super over in April at WrestleMania. He did fuck all nothing for several weeks before Money in the Bank. And he wrestled that Money in the Bank, and then he didn't do anything afterwards. So his momentum is in the dirt. Same as Julia. Same as so many other unfortunate souls who end up with championships in WWE. All right, now let's get into this special feature that we got here. Let's see. It was posted on July the 18th by Brandon Thurston that Netflix releases viewing data for WWE PLE's SmackDown, NXT, and Monday Night Raw. So, before we get too far into this, it says, keep in mind the viewing window for this content was anytime from January the 1st to June 30th. All right. So January 1st to June 30th, which is what I'm going to look at, is the first Monday Night Raw on Netflix and the most recent. So from their information, January 6, 2025, Raw had 6.9 million viewers and did 20 million hours viewed. That's a lot. On June 30th, however, it was reported they had 1.4 million viewers and only 2.6 million hours viewed globally. Okay? So they're only doing 13% of what they started with. 13% of what they started with. Now, Monday Night Raw is the only Netflix exclusive content that the WWE has. We have the numbers for Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and all that stuff too, but those are all global numbers. NXT is already on television in the United States, so the numbers would be outside of the United States. Same thing with SmackDown, and same thing with the pay-per-views, because the pay-per-views are on Peacock in the United States. So Raw is the only show that is worldwide on Netflix. And when you look at there's like 300 million people with Netflix, and only 2.5 million people are watching Monday Night Raw. I mean, if you look at the graph, it is absolutely embarrassing. You know, it's tough to look at. I mean, it settled in the 3 millions for a really long time until June 9th. June 16th, because once it got under 3 million for the first time, it was June 16th. So it went from 6.9 million on January the 6th to 4.5 million on January the 13th. Technically 4.4 million, but we kind of rounded it up a little bit. And then it settled down at about 3.6 million for several weeks. It was around that 3.6, 3.4 million. It jumped up to 4 million again on April 21st, which was WrestleMania season. And then it slid back down to the threes. And then once it got to the twos in June, it never recovered. This is absolutely embarrassing figures. And there's just no two ways about it. This is the global number. The only thing is, I'm thinking it's got to be some kind of incomplete number. I can't imagine that they were doing about 1.5 million viewers on network television, network cable in the United States, and they're now only doing 1 million more people around the world. There's got to be more to it than this. I hope there's more to it than this. If so, then you're probably looking at Netflix wanting to opt out early when it comes to Monday Night Raw, and them having to find a new home, because for your viewership to fall off this much, look, I don't expect, and I'm not one of these goofy people who think that Monday Night Raw should be getting Squid Game numbers. Wrestling is never going to be more popular than whatever the most popular television show is. All those people who a couple of years ago were trying to compare it to, what was that? Lord of the Rings? Not Lord of the Rings. What's the other one? The other one who had a TV show. Or The Walking Dead. Or Seinfeld during the Attitude Era. Oh, look at how many people watch. Like, there's always going to be more people watching more non-niche, more mainstream television programs. So I've seen people trying to compare Raw to Squid Game. Why do you want to compare it to Squid Game? Those two things are not nearly the same thing. And furthermore, Squid Game doesn't run every single week, 52 weeks a year. There's going to be some fall off, especially in the summer months, due to this is what time WWE always has a fall off. If it doesn't pick up in the fall, then I probably would start asking some questions. But the summer is always very slow for WWE. It's always been this way. But the viewership needs to pick up because it is utterly pathetic. And you look at it and you see it precipitously going down. And if this is accurate information, then we have to address this because they're no different than AEW. Stop telling me about all these tickets you're selling and nobody's watching your fucking show. Now, there has to be some reason why WWE is completely selling out TV shows, but nobody's watching the fucking show on Netflix. Is it because people are choosing to use VPNs when they watch the show? Is it people bootlegging it? I don't know. We have no earthly idea what's going on right now, but I most certainly hope that WWE is not doing this bad on Netflix, because it's not going to last very long if it is. One thing that WWE has been doing absolutely wrong is not leaving people with any reason to be excited for the next week. For instance, Roman Reigns was on Raw this week. He's going to be on Raw next week. But we don't know what he's going to be doing. And there's no cliffhanger that the show ends on to make us intrigued about what's going to happen next week, right? There's no big match announced. There's no big fight announced next week. There's nothing. It's just, if you watch this week, we'll see you next week. It's like, I don't know. I don't think that's enough, guy. I think you're going to do better than that. Wrestling is always more popular when there's at least one storyline that is intriguing people to turn in every week. Whether it's Austin and McMahon, Sting versus the NWO, or, the Bloodline. There has to be something to get people to be intrigued in next week's story. And you have nothing, because it's all tournaments, gauntlets, fatal four-ways, and bullshit like that to get into these matches. And then that's it. Oh, he's the number one contender because he won a fatal four-way match. You didn't even need to watch the fatal four-way match. Why? You didn't need to watch it. And then you don't need to see any of the build-up. You can just wait till SummerSlam. And SummerSlam's not on Netflix. So you can skip out. It doesn't matter. Over the week of June, they did tournaments and stuff like Money in the Bank should have popped the number, but it didn't apparently. But then there was the King of the Ring tournaments, King and Queen of the Ring, but no major storyline occurred. Something will happen at WrestleMania. Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman turn on Roman, but there's no immediate follow-up. Roman's gone for months. And so you look at this and you say to yourself, what is the benefit of this? Why should anybody tune in next week outside of sheer force of habit? What's going to go out and grab people and bring them back into the show? Nothing. So I'm not surprised the numbers went down. I'm surprised they haven't gone down further, if we're being honest, because they keep doing the same shit every week. Bullshit long matches that end in disqualification, or they have real finishes but no impact. Like Rusev and Sheamus. Good match, no impact. Meant nothing. Nobody's a number one contender now. Now they're 50-50 booking it because they're 50-50 with each other. So, again, no point to this. One thing that came out of this that I thought was pretty damn silly is that Dave Meltzer claims that he has mathematicians that are telling him that with Max, that AEW Dynamite has more viewers than Monday Night Raw. This has to be heard, to be believed. Now, I want people to recognize I'm using Vince Russo. So, Russo brand. They doing a castrating the marks, and they're using this audio from Dave Meltzer. So I'm going to try to isolate Meltzer so he won't give away too much of what Vince Russo has to say.
The max number.
Legitimately, this week, or last week, if Raw had, or I mean, if Dynamite had, I would say between 350 and 365,000 watching on Max, which would be live in same day. You know, not for the week. I mean, for the week it probably has it, but live in same day, which, I mean, it could have. It's a number that's very, very viable. I've seen mathematicians that have sent me with their work that believe that 350 is low on this.
Yeah, mathematicians, guys. The Meltzer has mathematicians who are telling him that 300,000 people are watching on Max. Now, here's the thing. If 300,000 people are watching Dynamite on Max, it is the most watched thing on Max, period, including the NBA. All right? That's not true. It's not true. How many times have they put out these statements where you see that the NBA does paltry numbers on Max? Why would the people who are watching the NBA on television all of a sudden start watching it on Max? They haven't. And why would people be watching Dynamite on Max? They haven't. The numbers are not that big. Okay? Extra 300,000 people. Dynamite does 500 to 600,000 people. You mean to tell me that at least 50% of their audience is watching on Max? I don't believe that. You're lying. But he said all that to say this.
But live in same day, which, I mean, it could have. It's a number that's very, very viable. I've seen mathematicians that have sent me with their work that believe that 350 is low on this and think it's considerably higher. I mean, my estimate would probably be closer to 350.
What are these?
It's considerably higher. I mean, my estimate would probably be closer to 350, but if it beats the 350 to 365, then Dynamite has got more viewers. Last week would have more viewers than Raw had, which I don't think would have been on anyone's bingo card.
Even if that were true, there is no episode of Dynamite that has occurred in the year of our Lord 2025 that if you add 350 people, 350,000, it reaches the number that Raw has. Okay? If you look at the WrestleNomics list and you accept it for what it is, the June 30th episode of Monday Night Raw had 1.4 million viewers. That's the lowest so far, okay? If you take the highest when it comes to Dynamite, this would be June 20th episode of Dynamite where they had 623,000 viewers. So, add 350,000 people to 623,000 people, you get 950, 970, almost a million, but not quite, right? That's still not what Raw got on Netflix. Okay? He's lying. All right? There's no number Dynamite has done in recent memory that's higher than what they did for their Global Wars crossover show in Mexico. So, if you add 350,000 to that, you still don't even get 1 million viewers, let alone 1.4 million viewers. All right, so this is clearly bullshit, but WWE needs help, clearly. They have to get back on long-form storytelling, and by real long-form storytelling, I mean soap opera storytelling. That's what Triple H has gotten away from. He's gotten away from the soap opera element. He's abandoned that. Now it's all tournaments, gauntlets, fatal four-ways, and a bunch of bullshit. People don't care about that stuff. WWE's fans don't care about wrestling. This is one of the things that Vince Russo got 100% correct. And the know-it-alls online, they've even figured it out. WWE's fans are there for the soap. The wrestling is an element of that. They want that too, but they came for storytelling. They came to see cool characters. When you take all that stuff away and try to replace it with 15 minutes of Stephanie Vaquer versus Iyo Sky, hey, we can love those girls. We can really appreciate them. But ultimately, I would rather somebody get hit by a car. Okay? I would rather somebody get hit by a car. I would rather somebody get poisoned or have their eyeball popped out of their head. Because at least I want to know where this goes. Okay? When you're not doing stuff that where people say, I wonder where this is going, then people don't go along with you. They just look at the show, okay, and then they go do something else. And it's on Raw, and it's on SmackDown, and it's at the pay-per-views where they don't give you any reason to tune in the next show. NXT actually does, though. NXT actually tries, but Raw doesn't try. This show sucks. And it sucked since week 2 or 3, if we're being honest. They threw everything at the first show. That's why so many people watched it. But 20 million is still, was an unsustainable number because they weren't going to have The Rock on there every week. They weren't going to have Roman Reigns wrestling on there every week. They blew off the Bloodline story on that show for the most part. It was an unsustainable number. They were never going to get that again. But they could at least have kept up the viewership, but they couldn't even do that. How far is Netflix going to let it get before they start lighting a fire under Triple H's ass? The flywheel is going to have a problem if Triple H screws up this Netflix deal. So he's going to have to get his ass in gear. But let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you good people later, and peace out.
Old non-aggression. Once that lesson sets in, you'll see a session. But you got an affection for no progression. Regression, the best don't